Ron Goodall, FightHype.com. I'm here with rising, I want to say superstar because I see a lot of potential. Rising superstar Emiliano Moreno, who's only 19 years old with a record of 12-0, 7 KOs. I originally met you out at Top Rank in Vegas and wanted to catch up and see how everything's going with you.
Everything's going to go with me, Ron. How's everything going with you?
Good, good, man. Can't complain. Um, Recently you just had a fight on Pro Box and people were highly talking about you on social media. And you've been on this like knockout tear. You've been stopping a lot of guys back to back. And only at the age of 19, you've already started to get some major attention across promotional companies and even been in the ring, working with world champions and top guys. So I wanted to, I guess, dig into your background first and go, how did you get into boxing? How many amateur fights did you have? And how did you get here?
Man, I got into boxing through my brother because we both used to play soccer, but he had switched to boxing, and I didn't even know boxing was a sport. And when I saw him boxing and training with my dad, I thought it was interesting because in soccer, it's more of like a team sport, and you kind of have to rely on other people. And with boxing, it's more like the work you do is the result you're gonna get. So. I've always liked that. I've always liked being in control of the outcome. So that just naturally caught my eye. And I started boxing with my dad and my brother. And I did a couple sparrings. It was cool. I liked it. I liked just being able to be in control. Just uh I really don't like to rely on other people that much. So Uh, yeah, that's how I got into boxing. And then my amateur background, I don't really have much amateurs, um, which is probably why I'm not as known as these other guys. But I only got like 6 amateur fights because I never really was an amateur fighter. I always was a professional style because when I first started training, I had met Jose Benavidez and David Benavidez at the gym, and my dad became friends with Jose Benavidez Senior, and yeah, we just started training together, and he asked me, like, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a national champion, go to the Olympics, turn pro? And I said, I want to turn pro. So, we started focusing on the professional style, and I only did a couple amateur fights, and I felt like I was ready to turn pro after that.
No, what's crazy is I remember meeting you around the time that you were sparring Devin for the Ryan Garcia fight. And I did bump into Benavidez Senior. I'm trying to think. It was a Pacheco fight that was going down, Richardson Hitchin and Gustavo Lemos. So I asked him about some stuff about Davin and Ryan and things like that because I saw, he went to the gym to see some sparring. Obviously, in this case, he came to see sparring not just for Devin, but he came specifically to see you spar Devin.
Yeah.
And so like you guys have like a really good foundation. If I'm not mistaken, you guys, worked together for like 5, 6 years, and same with your brother, your dad, your brother and you guys were there in the trenches, like with some killers, sparring crazy, insane guys. And while you were doing all this, I guess I wanted to ask you, what was your experience like working, sparring, being around David Benavidez, Jose, when he was the top amateur, or he was the top amateur and he was pro. And I think maybe some other guys was in there, right? Like, was there like guys like
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
killers?
Uh, what's his name? So the Ramirez was there.
Hmm.
Training with him for a little bit. David was getting some sparring with him. But just seeing David grow up and well, not really grow up, but just seeing, well, as I grew up seeing David spar, um, that just kind of implanted like a like just something in my head. Like he would spar 3 times a week, so I'd see his sparring 3 times a week. I learned a lot from him. his defense, his attacking, his how he puts pressure, how he gets someone who puts pressure off of him. Just multiple things that I've learned from him, and I'm thankful for him. I'm thankful that he took me under his wing for a while, and it was just dope. There was so the Ramirez was there sparring with David. You know, can't really think of nobody else, but I do remember probably maybe like 2 years later or 3 years later, Ryo joined. Ryo started getting trained by Senior, and seeing Ryo transfer to because he used to have a different style before, but when Senior took him in, he started putting pressure, started um, knocking people out and all that stuff, So um, just seeing that, seeing him spar, I got to get some sparring with him too a couple times when I was like 15, you know. So. I don't know. I feel like that's just like kind of formed my style and how I box now. From the camps that I've been with David and all the stuff I've seen in camp, the way he trains, the way he's disciplined. He always pushes himself for another round, another round. He always pushes himself in sparring. He tries new things out. So I feel like I just kind of got that from David.
You know, what's crazy is that when you mentioned that you were working with Ryo at 15, that's also the year that you turned professional, right?
Yeah,
And so about six amateur fights, turned pro at 15, started already fighting, working with, which considered is one of the top trainers and obviously one of the top talents, David Benavidez. I mean, I can only imagine when you look back at that time, it was probably like a very stressful time, but a fun time because, you know, you probably had to drop out of school. Your dad probably had to invest a lot of time, maybe had to not work. And so at that time, it was just you two pursuing essentially a dream of yours. Um, and your brother decided to take a step back from boxing at that time, right?
yeah,
And so it's, your dad's all in on you, I believe you were homeschooled, right?
yeah,
And so the only person that was essentially financially, I guess, maybe working was your mom, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, when I was 15, I was sparring with a bunch of professionals, sparring with professionals at Wild Card, Elvis Rodriguez, Ryo, Robert Garcia gym, just a bunch of professionals getting a bunch of different work. And Benavidez went up to Seattle. So uh, I told my dad kind of like I kind of want to take it to the next level because I used to train probably like 2 times a day, run in the morning and then train in the afternoon, because I had school, my dad had work. So I told him like I feel like school is really just kind of wasting my time. Like I kind of want to do this, I don't really want to focus on school as much. And we tried being homeschooled for maybe about a year, but that homeschool is just not for me. Like I can't just sit there and I always got to be doing something, just sitting there and doing packets, homework packets, getting online for an hour. It wasn't really for me. So my mom and my dad let me drop out, and with me dropping out, my dad also wanted to get involved as well. So he ended up quitting his job, and my mom was no longer working. My brother was helping out on the bills a little bit. Um, and we left to Seattle and we started training over there. We had no place to stay. We had to sleep at the gym. There wasn't even a shower at the gym. We had to go to LA Fitness to shower. And just sleeping at the gym, it was cold. We had like a little heater we were fighting over. And that's just the times that I don't forget when I step in the ring, the sacrifices I've made, leaving my family at a young age. My mom's the only one working. Um, you know, being kind of like a rough terrain to or habitat to reside in, and we were just really were just working, keep on improving my style, keep on sparring new people. And when I was 15, maybe like a couple months before I turned 16, we decided to go pro. So that's when we went. We had a manager we found out in Seattle, and he's still with me today. You know, he's a great manager. He provides a lot for me. He provides this house that I'm in right now. This it's a camp house in Vegas, you know, for the fighters. So, you know what I mean? Like he provides a house, a vehicle, food, you know, all of that, nutritionist. So he's an amazing manager, Ray Fry. You know, I'm so very blessed to meet him, and yeah, just basically we decided to go pro at 15, and you know, first fight was good, second fight was good, and we just kept on developing the pro style and developing strength because you know I was only like 15, 16, you know, so I had to develop strength and yeah, just keep getting more experience with pros, and that's basically what happened.
You know, in that sense, I do ask, because a lot of people fight for something, right? Some people fight for a world championship, which is probably given every fighter. Some people fight for money. Some people fight for glory, pride. Some fight for family. Like, what would you say you fight for in the case of this?
I definitely fight for my mom, definitely. You know, I just want her to have a you know, good her my mom and my dad, you know, I want them to have a you know, like maybe like in 10 years where they well, my mom's definitely gonna retire sooner than that, but my dad, you know, I want my dad to retire too. So um I don't know, maybe he likes training. You know, he's always had this kind of fire for boxing, so maybe he'll continue training. But I just want my mom and my dad to have a comfortable life and you know, not have to look at a bill. You know, my sister, my brother, help my sister get her college tuition. My brother, just help him out with some money too. You know, he helped us when my mom was the only one working, only one getting money, and yeah. So I really fight for my mom because she's always like believed in me, you know. So I've always like no matter what I told her I wanted to do, she's always believed in me 100%. So I feel like I like owe it to her to you know, prove her right, you know, prove that she did have uh she wasn't just mistaken, you know, she did have a right feeling about this, you know. And yeah, man, I feel like my mom's my biggest motivation, and you know, family obviously is my motivation as well, but my mom's like just the top one I always think about all the time whenever I wake up. I don't want to wake up. I think about my mom, you know, I gotta wake up 5 a.m. to go run, you know. Then when I'm staying up late, you know, like sometimes I don't want to go to sleep. It's like 11 p.m., 12 a.m. And I'm just like, oh, like I'm not tired, but I'm like, nah, I gotta get some rest, you know, I gotta put this work, I gotta do good, you know, for my mom.
No, this, it's honorable, a true mama's boy, but as it should be, right?
Yeah,
First true love. For a lot of people now, they understand the story in the beginning. You've had these performances on Pro Box. You've been dominating, very aggressive style. You mentioned a little bit of influence from the Benavidez. David. Would you say you model yourself a little bit like David Benavidez with a little twist of your own? How would you describe your style? Because it's definitely aggressive. It comes to I'm trying to knock the guy out. I'm trying to get the guy out of there. Very fan friendly as well, so it's definitely like a must watch. So, in your words, how would you describe your style?
man, I describe my style. Definitely does have an influence of Benavidez, but it's not an exact copy of Benavidez. You know, I'll never be Benavidez. You know, I don't want to be Benavidez. You know, I kind of want to do my own thing. So, um, you know, definitely got an influence of it. But for my style, I would say that I kind of have a unique style. You know, I could box, I could fight. You know, I like countering, I like putting pressure, I like feigning. You know, I like all that stuff. So, my style is definitely unique, and I feel like a lot of people are gonna love to watch me.
Yeah. No, and you definitely, being out in Vegas, top ranked gym. I've seen you spar some good names and some good guys. And so I do have to ask because you're only 19. I know BoxRec isn't sanctioned body rankings, and I know that you're going to move at the pace that you are, but in world rankings, they have you as number 45 in the welterweight. And so you're on track and pacing really well based on your point system. And at the age that you are, where do you see yourself, in the next couple of years? Fighting, contenders, or are you going to try to dare to be like, racing to be one of the fastest welterweight champions? Like, how do you see your career playing out in the next couple of years?
I definitely want to be a welterweight champion as soon as possible, you know. Um, me and my team were just talking about fighting for a youth belt soon, and if the opportunity presents itself, and we feel like we're ready, we're definitely gonna take the title shot, and because that's what I want to do. I want to prove something. I feel like I've always got something to prove because, I got no amateur experience. Uh, when I first turned pro, all of these promotions were overlooking me. They weren't, or it wasn't like overlooking me. It's just I didn't really have amateur background. They didn't really want to invest in someone like that. But now I feel like I got something to prove. Now I feel like 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 I have to prove myself because I didn't do it in the amateurs, so now I got to do it in the pros. So as soon as the title shot appears, we feel like we're ready, we'll take it. Um, anyone at 47, we could. I feel like anyone at 47, we can get ready for. Just give us time, and we could be ready for anyone at 47.
Since we are talking about your division, and these are guys that most likely you won't come across just because of just people outgrow weight classes and other goals of theirs accumulate. But, many people feel like Duran Ennis and Stan Jonas is going to be like, the best welterweight fight, in your division, or two guys, right? I know there's Brian Norman who's starting to make a lot of attention and buzz. But people feel that Stanionis and Duran, at least right now, the fight that's made, those two guys are probably the most veteran light welterweight. So with that fight happening, I mean, do you see one guy standing out a little bit more? And if so, why and how do you think the fight plays out?
Drawn Ennis, boots Ennis,
Hmm.
man. I love his style. I feel like right now, I feel like he's right now, I feel like he's unbeatable at 47. I feel like because, his style is just so tricky. He keeps his distance good, he counters good, his aggressiveness, his power, so I feel like right now he's definitely the best at 47. But just, give me maybe a couple more years and I'll be ready to take boot tennis, whether it's at 47 or 54, I feel like I definitely want that fight in the future. Definitely.
What about Boots that you give obviously high praise and and you recognize that there's a part of his career where he's at and a part of your career where it's like almost like a respectful call out like but is it simply because you feel like he's one of those top guys that as a challenge you see as that what makes you great if you wouldn't be able to face him?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've always wanted to fight the best. I've always wanted to do the best fights, Um, even early in my career, they offered me opponents and my father always chose the best one, he always chose because he always had faith in me, he didn't want to really like pad my record. He always wanted to choose the best and hardest opponents so we could kind of prove ourselves and because my father knows that we work hard, that we could take these people. So just the challenge of fighting Boots, that would be amazing. I feel like we're both great thinkers, and it would just be an amazing fight. Like maybe a couple years in the future, at 47 or 54, like I said. Um, but yeah, Boots, he's a very amazing fighter, and the challenge of fighting him with just thinking about it just gets me excited. Most people want to just uh, dodge the fights, dodge the hard fights, challenging fights, but not like we gotta fight. We gotta fight. You know what I mean? I've always wanted to like fight to fight the best, and become the best, and I guess that just comes with proving myself. Feeling like I've always had to prove myself to people.
So it's safe to assume that when Duran Stanos comes across, Duran Ennis would be the victor.
Yeah,
Do you think by knockout?
maybe,
Maybe.
maybe I don't know, but definitely Ennis is gonna win that one. Definitely.
Got it. You know, going a little bit more in depth, guys are entering your division and 47 is going to be real interesting. The Ryan Garcias, the Rollies,
Mhm.
Tio, Devin, who you sparred. I know that they're going to be in a position where realistically, like they're going to fight amongst each other and those are going to kind of be the guys that fight to the end of their legacy and then probably retire. But I know that you have worked with Devin. You sparred with him about 7 times, getting him ready for Ryan Garcia fight. So I guess in hindsight now, right? Because there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you. First and foremost, he's about to fight Jose Ramirez, right? And I know that the Ryan Garcia fight, he took a lot of punishment in there. I know that's very controversial because of the fact that Ryan has failed a drug test.
Mhm.
Some people obviously feel like if Devin fought a certain way or a certain style, it wouldn't have been that result. Some people felt that regardless of whatever style, Ryan had the ability to catch Devin. And then obviously the one that prevented Ryan from getting a win is the failed drug test. He had an advantage. And that's essentially a plus on what happened in the fight. So in your honest opinion, right? Because you sparred with him, you've seen Devin throughout the camp, not giving in details and stuff, but what was your perspective about that whole situation? And how do you feel Devin is going to be in the Jose Ramirez fight?
Um, I mean, no doubt about it. The performance enhancement drugs definitely had something to do with it. Whether it was a little bit or a lot, it still had something to do with it. I feel like the way Devin fought, um, I feel like it could have, man, when I sparred Devin, he like the last couple sparrings, man, he was outboxing me good. Like he was like jabbing me to the body, using the ring very well, but he had sharp defense. But I feel like in the fight, Ryan just got too much in his head. Devin wanted to knock him out so bad that like
It's not they don't like us. It's that what's up, Ronnie? What's going on?
uh, um what's it called, man? I feel like that Ryan definitely got into Devin's head. Devin wanted to knock him out so bad that he kind of like he almost like forgot how to fight, like almost like he just wanted to go at him and like sock him, and he got careless. He got caught with the hooks, so but yeah, this upcoming fight, I mean, for the Ryan fight, I feel like Devin definitely would have did way better if he would have, not let Ryan get into his head that much, and
Mhm.
stick to his game plan, stick to how he fights best, instead of like trying to knock everybody out. He's a very good boxer. He's very, very swift, quick on his feet, good hand movement, quick hands. And I felt like if he just boxed him, he would have did way better. But for this upcoming fight, um, I was actually supposed to work for Devin. I mean, work with Devin this upcoming fight, but some things happened, and uh you know, things just happened, like the camp house or the Airbnb he was trying to get didn't go through or something like that, and it was just a bunch of problems. But for this upcoming fight, I feel like if Devin, Devin obviously got like a um Devin obviously got like a chip on his shoulder from that Ryan fight. He wants to prove something this fight. So if Devin can if he had a good camp, if he worked really hard, if he was very disciplined, it just depends on how he does this fight. You know, if he learned from his mistakes and kind of goes back to how he was fighting before, and we might see the best Devin we've ever seen right now. But um if it just depends on how bad he really wants to prove people wrong, how 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 bad, he's kind of bothered by it, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
If you kind of have to be like bothered by it so you can work harder and make sure that don't happen again. Um so it really just depends on how he's been training, the work he's been doing. And if this fight he looks really good, I feel like for the Ryan fight for if they do have a next fight, definitely will definitely take that one. He's definitely, we'll see if he's learned from his mistakes this fight, see how sharp he is, and I feel like if he really is like super focused and real sharp and on point and everything like that, I feel like he could take the next Ryan fight.
Yeah, no, you make great points, and I know that the failed drug test is always going to be the asterisk, right? I know some people are going to feel otherwise, but it's always going to be the asterisk, the what if, right? It has something in the system. So, I know some fans that are viewing it, they're going to be like, well, you're not Ryan Garcia, right? And in some people's eyes. So, when you
Yeah, yeah,
kind of humbly said he was able to kind of outbox and things, but I've seen Devin go through sparring partners. I've seen Devin spar a lot of time, go through a lot of sparring partners and just like on to the next, like on to the next. The fact that you were able to do multiple sparring sessions, he wants to bring you back in the Jose, for the Jose, it didn't really work out for certain circumstances, and I'm sure maybe even for the Ryan fight, you definitely have skill and resilience and obviously. Um, we'll get into the other people that you worked with. So it's just kind of under the radar, and that's just kind of what you've been speaking earlier. A lot of people don't know who you are, but eventually they will. So I guess my last question on the whole Devin thing is that you know, you mentioned Devin's gonna have a chip on his shoulder, right? And I know that Devin is a tremendous boxer, but sometimes he likes to fight, right? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like I guess same thing with kind of guys like Terrence. Terrence could be a great boxer when he wants to, but sometimes he likes to fight or get back, certain moments. So there's elements of him where he can make it easy, but he wants to fight. If Devin wants to fight Jose Ramirez, can he have success? Or is that not really the best idea in your opinion? Because Jose, who has been outboxed by Barboza, who has lost to Josh Taylor, um, has been dropped, but many people still consider him as a threat against Devin for psychological reasons, and he's a former unified champion with good punching power. Would that be a bad idea if Devin decided to go and fight and trade with Jose Ramirez in those kind of sessions and pockets?
man. I love when boxers just go in there and kind of fight with other boxers, but it's kind of like a certain way you have to do it, like if you just go in there, hot-headed, not caring, you're obviously gonna get punched and touched up. But if you go in there carefully and maybe Devin was working on that this camp, working on going in carefully, working on, you know, um stuff like that. But I feel like a Devin, if he wants to go forward, he definitely has to work on that style a little bit more, Um, because he's obviously good. He's great. He's a master at boxing. But I feel like going forward is just not his strongest suit, and if he worked on that this camp, it'd probably be, surprising for a lot of people, oh, like he's going forward, he's actually having success with it, he's doing good, he looks good going forward, Um, so it just depends on whether he wants to uh have a new tool or keep on sharpening, his best tool, you know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like well, I don't know how the camp's going, but from what I've seen with Devin, if he tries to go exchange with Jose, um I don't know, like that could be like a tricky situation, but we'll see what he's did the whole camp when the fight comes. and well, I hope we're a surprise, I hope we're see something like something new, or the best Devin we've ever seen, or you know what I mean? Like I hope we see something nice from Devin.
Yeah, Bill's been real low key, and Devin's been extremely low key,
Yeah.
extremely. He mentioned he changed a lot of stuff in his camp, his life. So he has a daughter that he's fighting for as well. So it seems to be real interesting. And I think I'm with you. I think there's going to be a lot of changes, but this is a great opponent. It definitely should be something where, we're going to see how much Devin has evolved from that situation.